All right, what's going on? It's Bobby Skinner, Talking Giants, doing a draft film breakdown of the Giants' third round pick, cornerback Andru Phillips out of Kentucky. Athletic corner. Giants say he's going to play more in the slot, which I can see happening. He is athletic. He's got a good amount to figure out. I think the main thing for him that he's the best at is protecting the deep part of the field. Now, that does leave the intermediate and the short open at times. So we'll get into all of it. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. That helps us out a lot. Check out all our other our draft film breakdowns. You know, we've got Theo Johnson, Tyrone Tracy, Malik Neighbors, Tyler Newbin. Those ones are already done. And our draft recap podcast. Really would appreciate if you guys gave that a listen. Let's get into it. Like, subscribe. First play down here at the bottom versus Mizzou. Now, he has 0 career interceptions, which is not fair, because he should have one. Now, doesn't have these great ball skills, but he should have at least 1 career interception. But you're going to see on this play, watch this referee, watch this linebacker, this linebacker, this linebacker, and then this referee calls the flag here. But let's talk about Andru Phillips. So the interception has not, this not being counted, that has nothing to do with him. All right, so we're vertical, right? And here, we'll break this down a little more in later plays. This is part of the problem, but it's also how he's able to protect the deep part of the field. We're turning our hips and bailing early, right? So we're gonna keep that deep part protected. Now it's gonna leave you open to hitches, but does a good job watching the hips, playing the man, expecting the ball to come, turning your head, and it's a bad ball placed on the inside of the wide receiver. Interception. Right, so he's got the athleticism to run with it. Just a good job, right? Making a nice contested catch for you. Here again versus Mizzou. Right, going to get in this quarter shuffle. Just carries the vertical really well, right? Like you can see the athleticism. Right, nothing flashy. But we are turning our hips early, right? We're going. We're protecting the deep part of the field. Quarterback checks it down. Here versus Georgia. Here we're going to be pressed up a bit. This is when I think he's at his best, right? Is when he's pressed up. When he's not, forced to play from cushion. Right? He can eat up cushion, but this is when he's his best. Right? Matching with, mirroring with this receiver, keeping his hips square. Right? Throwing that left hand out, getting a hand on there. And now we can run, right? Now we can show off that speed. We're in that hip pocket. Ball's not going to come our way. Good play by Andru Phillips. Here, you're going to get a little sluggo, a double move on the bottom. Get some hands on him, right? Could be called for being a little grabby. But we got an incompletion. Keeping our hips somewhat square. They're turned towards the outside a bit, right? And we get this little double move right here, this little sluggo. Get some hands on him. That's a little grabby for about 8 yards, right? That could get called, but we're able to run. We stay in that inside pocket, and quarterback ends up missing. Right? Now, if this ball gets thrown out here, it might be a different story, but it's not. We're here. Incompletion. Here versus Tennessee, we're going to get a slot fade. Good job playing through the ball. Again, we turn our hips early, right? So if he's hitching, that's a problem. But he's not. We're running with it. That guy's fast, too. I don't know who that is, but he's got some speed to him. Not the greatest view, but you can see he plays through the ball. And then here versus Florida. Right? He's lined up right here. You got Ricky Pearsall, the first rounder. Up here, Ricky Pearsall works an outside track to get back towards the end of the middle of the field, and we're able to run. Right, Pearsall's working that outside track. We're in this quarter shuffle, and then when he makes that break, all right, we're in a good position to run and break this pass up, right? Horrible camera work. Now, We want to stay in position to be able to rip through those arms, right? Because this could be a catch. You want to be in a better position to rip through those arms, but he's able to get enough of a piece. Now, again, this is where, those other plays are like, oh, that's incomplete. But when there's a better ball, this is where I think the lack of ball skills does show up. So down here at the bottom, manned up, like he's able to stay in good man coverage here, right? We match and mirror at the release. Good job. We're in perfect position. And we just get mossed, right? Like this is great coverage. But we got to go up and try and get your hand on that ball. Because you can have all the great coverage in the world. If you don't got ball skills, you're going to get attacked. Right? And I know he's probably going to move into the slot, and that's part of it. But this is part of the reason why someone who has some of the size to play outside, maybe the team that drafted him and the high third is not there. Like, you got to turn your hips and go, right? We're not just guarding his hips. That's a big play given up. So those are, like, he does carry the vertical really well. It's just the ball skills that are a bit lacking. And then there's other plays too, not even just ball skills, but just being too grabby at the top when you're wrong, right? Like this ends up being a defensive pass interference. Right? Working a little out. The receiver's working a bit an out and up, basically, but it's just kind of a fade. And we do a good job, right? We don't open our hips too early. But you got to get into position and flip your hips, because you can't just put your hands on them and guard like that. Right? This isn't, at the 2-yard line. Like, you got to flip your hips and make a play on the ball. Instead, you're just basically just pushing him and holding him in place, and that's where you get that little yellow thing called a flag. Right? You just can't do that. And stuff like here. This ends up being a flea flicker, right? So I don't even like putting this on film that much. Right? So like he gets baited by this flea flicker. You can't have that in the NFL. You usually don't even see that in the NFL. But we're recovering. It's a ball thrown. Turn your head, right? Don't just face guard. You see a guy slow down like this, turn your head. If you turn your head, you may have just turned this bad play into an interception. Instead, they get the ball at the 1-yard line in the NFL. And then here, the flag doesn't get called, but it should be. Right? He's working this corner. Right, because we opened our hips in our running right here. Because we didn't keep our hips square. So he's one leverage, and he should be open, so we just grab, right? We wrap our arm around him and grab. And that should be a penalty, right? So that's where it's like, hey, yeah, you keep the field covered deep, but you're going to get yourself in trouble if you consistently open your hips and like that and playing too handsy at the top. So want to go through the plays where, like we talk about, he protects the deep part of the field, but it leaves himself vulnerable underneath. So we'll go through some of those plays, and then we'll show, hey, when he keeps his hips square and just plays patiently, he can be really good in coverage. So let's go through it. The first play down here at the bottom versus Florida, right? We're about to see this hitch. Right? And do you have this corner developing? But it's just, when they're booting out like this, there's no reason to boot to, like, you have this safety's help. Play 2-man this, right? Instead, we're bailing, and you're just giving them the easy. You're giving them the easy, and you can't do that, right? That's how you get picked on. Here around the bottom versus Mizzou. What is the threat? What is the threat we're trying to protect from? We're turning our hips, and we're not even just turning our hips and playing with a little too much cushion. We're bailing. From what? From a little vertical cell on a hitch? That should not be there like that. That should not be like that. Here again versus Mizzou. Right? The ball doesn't come this way. Now, this is an example of some good too, right? Like, why are we turning our hips and stepping with this amount of cushion, right? That's for one. But what you do see is, like, man, if you can get it right, watch how he's able to close this space. Like, he's quick, right? He's quick. He's got good burst. It's just you got to trust that. You got to trust that more. Here versus Georgia, going to get another hitch or curl. Like, it's just too easy, right? Yeah, I understand they're running the smash concept high-low. You've got the safety, right? Make that a tough read for the quarterback. Make him make this tough throw on the sideline. Instead, you play so far off, and you're worried about this, that you give up the easy play. And they take a second and short and turn it into a 1st and 10. And then on, like, in breakers and outbreakers, here, Lad McConkey's going to get wide open on an out route, right? Because we've decided instead of playing square, we're in that quarter shuffle, we're bailing, and it's just easy. It's just easy for him to win that leverage. Here again in the slot, the opposite way. We turn our hips. We're worried about the vertical. We turn our hips and start sprinting with still this distance. And that's easy. That's easy. That's easy money for good receivers. Here versus Tennessee, they're going to do a switch release. I understand Tennessee runs a track meet, but stay patient, right? You see you've got this switch release. Keep your hips square. Keep your hips square. Even if you're going to backpedal, keep your hips square. Instead of we're turning our hips and bailing this way, and you just made it easy for them to get open on a crosser, right? That should be a big chunk play on a crosser. So it's just like staying more patient, right? Keeping your hips square and staying more patient, and I think it'll do a lot for him. But like when he is able to close cushion or keep his hips square, like you see the potential, right? Like here on this pass breakup versus Georgia, he's able to close this cushion well, right? We don't always need this cushion, right? But this is some ground to make up, and we close in on it. Ball comes out a little late, and we get ourselves a pass breakup. That's nice. Here basically the same route, just not going to get the ball this time on the bottom. Right? Like, hey, we don't need the bail quite yet, but we're able to close. We're able to click and close on that. All right, and then here versus Tennessee, they're going to run a slant. Now he's got inside leverage. But hey, we've seen plays of him where he gets this much of vertical stress and he's opening his hips and turning, and it would leave the slant wide open. But instead, we keep our hips fairly square. We see that break. We pounce. It's gone. Right? And Joe Milton's forced to throw the ball 70 yards. This guy's a freak. Here versus Mizzou on the bottom, right? You can get a slant. Let's press him up. Right? That's awesome. That's awesome coverage when he's pressed up, right? When we're not, just keep our hips square. Right? We match with that. We slide. We get our hands on him. That's great ball. Here on the bottom, right? We're going to get number one going across the back of the end zone. We're there, right? They're hoping that window opens up late. We get physical with them. We get to that inside hip. And now you get an interception. Close that back window off. Here versus Tennessee. Going to run this end zone fade. The slot fade. Keep our hips square. Not there, right? Don't bail. Don't bail. Be patient. Be patient. You read that, and now we're going. Now we close that. Awesome stuff. Here versus Brock Bowers, right? Is this guy Brock Bowers pretty good? See what he's capable of when he's patient, when he trusts his athleticism. Right? We slide. We keep our hips square. We get a little physical within 5 yards. We feel. And that's a deadly cut by Brock. But we're there. We're there with that. So you see a lot of ability. It's just a lot that has to be cleaned up to get to a point where we're not letting guys complete 65, 70% of their passes. All right, we got to finish off. Would be remiss to not put this on there. He has a 22% missed tackle rate. That's just way too high. So I'll let it roll. He needs to be a better tackler. But I'll let these plays roll while I finish up. Overall, this is an athletic player. The Giants say they're going to move in the nickel corner. He has a lot to clean up, as we've shown in this film. Right? There's a ways to go with him, but I think he's probably going to have to start day one. So he's going to have to learn on the fly. And if he's moving to nickel, like these, missed tackles and stuff, that has to be a big part of, your role is playing the run and making tackles as a nickel corner. So, a lot to work with, but a lot to work on with Andru Phillips, the 3rd round pick out of Kentucky. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Check out all the other film breakdowns. Had a lot of fun doing them. One more I got to get done, and then we'll have a full playlist. Appreciate you guys very much. Until then, let's go Big Blue.